1 hour before his wedding, Daniel Hart's perfect day collapsed with the arrival of a single, unmarked envelope. It slid under his dressing room door, without footsteps, without a knock, without a voice to claim it. Daniel picked it up, confused but calm. By the time he opened it, calm was no longer possible. Inside was his bride's HIV test result. Positive. Emily Rowe, the woman he planned to marry, the woman he thought he knew. Daniel's hands tightened. But before he could process the shock, something else fell out. A glossy photograph. Emily, pressed against his best man, Ryan Cooper, kissing him like the groom didn't exist. Their bodies close, their faces hidden in shadows. The timestamp told the rest. 48 hours before the ceremony. Daniel stared at the image, not blinking once. His mind didn't race, it froze. The two people he trusted most had crossed a line behind his back, while he prepared vows for both of them. And the envelope said even more. Someone had been watching. Someone had this photograph. Someone had access to Emily's private medical records. Someone chose this moment to reveal everything. Not a day earlier, not a day later, exactly 1 hour before the wedding. Daniel didn't shout. He didn't confront. He didn't crumble. He placed the photo back into the envelope, buttoned his suit, and walked into the church like nothing had happened. But everything was wrong. Emily noticed the stiffness in his smile. Ryan avoided him completely. And the priest's eyes followed Daniel as he slipped a small black recording device into his pocket. Daniel stood at the altar between a bride hiding a disease, a best man hiding betrayal, and a hidden sender who knew all three secrets. In minutes, when the vows reached the words, "Speak now or forever hold your peace," Daniel would press a button that would tear the wedding apart. And by sundown, one person from that altar would be dead. But none of them, not the bride, not the groom, not the best man, knew the truth waiting behind that envelope. Because Daniel wasn't the one who sent it. He wasn't the one who recorded the confession. He wasn't pulling the strings. Someone else planned this moment. Someone who wanted more than vengeance. Someone who wanted all three destroyed. This is where their story begins. If you want to uncover more chilling true crime stories and see justice exposed, subscribe to Crime Vaults as we bring light to the darkest true crime cases and never miss the secrets hidden in plain sight. Daniel Hart walked into the church with the calm of a man who had accepted his fate, though nothing inside him was calm. Guests rose with warm smiles, unaware he carried an envelope that could destroy the entire wedding in seconds. He greeted each person as if nothing had changed, but his hands trembled with every handshake. Emily watched him from across the aisle. She saw the stiffness in his steps, the distant look in his eyes. Something was wrong, but she couldn't name it. Not yet. Ryan stood near the front, adjusting his tie repeatedly, refusing to meet Daniel's gaze. The guilt on his face was unmistakable. But Daniel didn't confront him, not with words, not with anger, not with the photograph burning in his pocket. Instead, Daniel walked straight to the priest. The priest expected a nervous groom. What he saw instead was a man holding a small black device in his palm, a recording device. Daniel slipped it into his suit, nodding once, a gesture the priest couldn't understand. The ceremony began. Every eye focused on Emily as she walked down the aisle, glowing in white, hiding a secret she feared would one day catch up to her. She believed today would bury the truth forever. She believed the past was behind her,
She believed Ryan would keep everything quiet. But the moment she reached Daniel, she felt something she had never felt from him before: coldness, distance, stillness that didn't belong to the man she loved. Ryan's breathing grew shallow. He wiped his palms on his suit. He looked toward the audio booth once, then away quickly, as if he knew someone, somewhere, held power over him. The vows moved forward like a ticking clock. Daniel repeated each line perfectly, almost mechanically, his eyes fixed not on Emily, but on Ryan. Emily tried to hide her unease, but her voice cracked twice. Ryan couldn't stop trembling. When the priest reached the line the church had waited for, "If anyone here knows a reason, these two should not be joined," the room fell into a heavy silence, a silence thick enough to suffocate. Daniel's fingers slid into his pocket. He didn't speak. He didn't move his lips. He simply pressed a button. At that moment, the groom, the bride, and the best man all realized one truth: someone knew everything. And the next voice the church would hear was not Daniel's.
The speaker system cracked before anyone understood what was happening. A faint hiss, then a voice. Emily's voice. Not today's voice. A recorded one. Panicked. Uneasy. "Ryan, we shouldn't have done this. Not now. Not right before the wedding." Every head in the church turned toward the bride. Emily froze, her bouquet slipping from her fingers. Then Ryan's voice cut through the room, firm, desperate. "Emily, you promised you told him. You said he knew. You said he forgave you." Murmurs rippled through the guests like a wave. Emily's mother covered her mouth. Ryan's father lowered his head. Emily shook her head violently. "No, stop! Please, stop!" But the audio continued. "What about the test results?" Ryan whispered. "What if he finds out? What if the pregnancy is actually—" The audio glitched, then sharpened. Emily's trembling voice filled every corner of the church. "He can't know, Ryan. He can't. Not about you. Not about the HIV. Nothing. We end this after the honeymoon. Just stay quiet until then." A scream rose somewhere in the back pews. The priest stepped forward, trying to reach the sound booth, but the audio wouldn't stop. Emily fell to her knees, shaking uncontrollably. "Daniel, please, please turn it off," she begged, reaching for him. Daniel didn't move. He didn't blink. He kept his eyes locked on the best man, a man who now looked as if the ground beneath him had vanished. Ryan stumbled backward, hitting a pew, his face drained of every drop of color. "Daniel, listen, this wasn't supposed to—" His words tangled, useless. But the recording delivered one final blow. "If he ever finds out this baby might be yours, Ryan, your life is finished." Silence slammed into the room. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3. Then chaos erupted. Guests stood, voices rose. Emily sobbed uncontrollably. Ryan tried to push through the crowd, desperate to reach Daniel, desperate to stop the fallout. Daniel never lifted a hand, but as police would learn later, Daniel never played the recording, never uploaded it, never even heard it before this moment. Someone else had triggered it. Someone who needed the truth exposed at the exact moment the vows were spoken. The wedding was destroyed. The guests panicked. But the worst part hadn't happened yet, because by sundown, one person captured in that recording would be dead.
The church dissolved into chaos. Guests shoved past one another, desperate to escape the shame, the shock, the collapse of a wedding that felt cursed from the moment the recording began. Emily cried so hard she could barely breathe. Ryan pushed through the crowd, trying to reach Daniel before everything spiraled beyond repair. But Daniel didn't react. He stood still at the altar, the envelope in his pocket like a blade he refused to draw. When Ryan finally reached him, he grabbed Daniel's arm. "Please," Ryan said, voice cracking, "we can fix this. Let me explain." Daniel stepped back, eyes cold, jaw locked. "There's nothing left to explain, except who sent that recording, and who wants us ruined." Ryan froze. Emily looked up through tears, confusion etched across her face. "Daniel, I swear," she whispered, "I didn't send anything." She was right. She didn't. Security arrived, pushing the crowd outside. The priest tried to regain order, but the damage was carved too deeply. Outside the church doors, the air buzzed with accusations. Emily clung to Daniel's arm. "Tell me you don't believe this," she begged. Daniel pulled away. "I believe the evidence," he said. Ryan backed against a wall, shaking, the recording replaying in his mind. He wasn't thinking about the wedding anymore. He was thinking about survival. Because Emily's last words on that recording weren't just embarrassing. They were dangerous. "If he finds out this baby might be yours, your life is finished." Those words had weight. They had implication. They had motive. And as Ryan looked around the parking lot filled with angry faces, he realized someone out there wanted that threat removed permanently. Police sirens echoed in the distance. Someone had already called them. But officers weren't coming for the scandal. They were coming because one wedding guest had collapsed moments after the audio ended, a guest who claimed they knew who sent the envelope. And that guest was no longer breathing. Detectives would later confirm it wasn't a heart attack. It wasn't shock. It was poison. A deliberate killing. The first sign that the destruction inside the church was only the beginning. Because someone didn't just want the wedding ruined. Someone wanted bodies. And by sundown, they would get another.
If you want to uncover more chilling true crime stories and see justice exposed, subscribe to Crime Vaults as we bring light to the darkest true crime cases and never miss the secrets hidden in plain sight. The music shifts, the tone darkens, and for the first time, the best man speaks up. Because hours before the wedding, he had tried to warn the groom. He pulled him aside, voice shaking, hands trembling, eyes darting toward the bride like he was afraid she'd hear him. He told the groom there was something she needed to confess, something she had been hiding for months, something that could destroy both of them. But the groom brushed it off. He thought it was jealousy. He thought it was drama. He thought his best man was just overwhelmed by the wedding chaos. He had no idea the man standing beside him at the altar was the same man the bride had been sleeping with behind his back. And he had no clue that the warning he ignored wasn't about the affair, but about his life. Because the best man wasn't just her secret lover. He wasn't just the man she had been meeting in hotel rooms. He wasn't just the one she confessed the affair to in a moment of panic. He was the first person she told about the positive HIV test. He knew the truth before the groom ever suspected a thing. And now, standing at the ceremony,
watching the groom place a ring on her finger, watching her smile through tears that weren't from joy. He realized he had helped create the very disaster he was unable to stop. He tried again to pull the groom aside. The bride stepped in, smiling, calm, controlling, and dragged her husband-to-be back to the altar. The best man's eyes filled with fear, because he knew the moment they said, "I do," the deadliest secret in the room would no longer be contained. And by the time the reception ended, someone would be fighting for their life.
The ceremony ended, but the chaos didn't. Guests whispered in hallways, unable to believe what they had just heard. Emily fled to the bridal suite, sobbing uncontrollably. Ryan lingered in the shadows, glancing nervously at Daniel, at the guests, at the doors. Daniel didn't follow. He didn't speak. He stood near the altar, silent, watching everything unfold. Minutes passed. Then the first scream cut through the reception hall. A guest collapsed near the buffet. Panic erupted. People rushed forward, but the victim was already gone. Paramedics arrived. They checked for a pulse. There was none. Investigators would later confirm it wasn't natural. It wasn't an accident. The first death was deliberate. A fast-acting poison slipped into a drink in the confusion of the ceremony collapse. Guests stared in horror. The groom, the bride, and the best man, all trapped in a nightmare they could not escape. But the real shock was yet to come. Detectives would later discover something chilling. The envelope, the photograph, the recording. None of it came from Daniel. None of it was Ryan's doing. And the first death, the one they had just witnessed, was only the beginning. Someone had orchestrated it all, from the shadows, watching, waiting, ensuring that by the end of the day, all three of them would question everything, even their own survival. And that someone was still out there. Detectives arrived at the church minutes after the first collapse. They were met with chaos, confusion, and whispers of betrayal. Guests pointed fingers, their eyes wide with fear. But the officers quickly realized this was no ordinary wedding incident. They examined the envelopes, the photograph, the recording device. None of it belonged to Daniel. None of it belonged to Ryan. None of it belonged to Emily. Someone had orchestrated it all. Someone with access. Someone with a plan. And that someone had already claimed a victim. Forensics revealed the poison was not random. It was precise, fast-acting, targeted. The first death wasn't a warning. It was a statement. Detectives turned to the guests. Suspicion grew like wildfire. Whispers of affairs, HIV, secrets. Everyone seemed connected. Everyone seemed guilty. Emily was hiding in the bridal suite, trembling. Ryan refused to leave the hall. He knew he had been involved, but he hadn't killed anyone. Not yet. Daniel, standing silent, observed everything with a cold clarity. He realized the recording, the envelope, the poison, none of it was random. This was a setup, a trap designed to destroy more than just a wedding. Then the investigators found it. A second envelope, identical to the first, sent directly to the church's administration office. Inside, a single typed message. The first was only the beginning. The next will be closer to home. A chill swept through the room. Everyone understood immediately. The killer wasn't finished. The game had just begun, and the next layer of danger was about to strike. Someone at the wedding would be next. Detectives tightened security. Guests were questioned. But the deeper they dug, the more they realized the mastermind was invisible, watching every move, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. And Emily, Ryan, and Daniel had no idea who it was or how far they would go. Evening fell, but the nightmare did not end.
Emily refused to leave the bridal suite. Ryan stayed near the back exit, glancing at every shadow. Daniel remained near the altar, silent, calculating. None of them knew who would act next, or when. Then it happened. A guest, one of Emily's cousins, approached Ryan in the hallway. Their voice was low, trembling. "You need to tell the truth," they whispered. "You need to explain what you know before it's too late." Ryan recoiled. He tried to step back, but the cousin advanced. The tension snapped. Words became shouting. Hands flew. Daniel watched from the reception hall unseen. He didn't intervene. He didn't have to. Because in the chaos, someone slipped a drink to Ryan, a drink he believed was safe. But it wasn't. Minutes later, Ryan doubled over. A gasp. A thud, and he collapsed against the wall. Emily screamed from the bridal suite. Daniel ran toward him. Guests scrambled, and the first responders confirmed the unthinkable. Ryan was dead. The room froze. The investigation had gone from shocking to catastrophic. Detectives searched the drink. Toxicology confirmed it. A fast-acting poison. Someone had waited for the exact moment of maximum chaos to strike. Daniel realized the truth instantly. He had been framed from the start. The envelopes, the recording, the photo, none of it was his doing. But someone had engineered the perfect storm. And now that someone had escalated from manipulation to murder. Emily clutched Daniel's arm, shaking. "Who is doing this?" she begged. "I don't know," he whispered, though inside he feared the answer. The killer was still in control, watching, waiting. And Daniel knew one thing with terrifying certainty. If the mastermind had taken Ryan, no one was safe. Not him, not Emily, not anyone who had crossed paths with the bride and best man. The wedding that should have been the happiest days of their lives had turned into a hunt, a trap, and the killer was one step ahead, planning the next move.
Emily was gone. Her bridal suite was empty. Her phone powered off. Her car remained in the church lot. No one knew where she had gone. Detectives scoured the room. Then they found it. A second envelope, identical to the first, taped to the mirror in the suite. Inside, a single typed message. "You should have told the truth." Beneath it, a strand of hair. Not Daniel's, not Ryan's, not Emily's. A fourth person was involved. Someone watching, someone orchestrating everything. Someone who had planned the chaos from the shadows. The investigation widened. Every guest was questioned. Every interaction was analyzed, but no one could explain how the envelopes were delivered, or who had uploaded the audio, or who had poisoned Ryan. Detectives began to piece it together. Emily wasn't just a victim. She was a target, and someone wanted her isolated, alone, vulnerable. Daniel realized it first. The recordings, the envelopes, the first death, none of it was random. This was a game, a trap, and the killer was still in control. The wedding had been destroyed, but the story was far from over. The mastermind had only just begun. Detectives dug deeper. They traced the envelopes. They traced the recording. Every lead pointed to someone with access, someone who knew every secret. Then the breakthrough came. Security footage from a side entrance. A figure, unseen by the guests, delivering the first envelope. A hand, gloved, precise, calculated. DNA from the second envelope confirmed it.
The same person had sent both. And not just the envelopes. They had uploaded the audio remotely. They had poisoned Ryan. The investigation revealed a stunning truth. It wasn't Daniel. It wasn't Emily. It wasn't Ryan. It was someone from their past. Someone who had been silently wronged by all three. Someone who had watched, waited, and planned revenge for months, even years. A former friend. Someone who had been betrayed by lies, secrets, and broken trust. Someone who wanted the triangle destroyed in one calculated strike. The envelopes, the recording, the poison. Everything was part of a single plan. And the final revelation hit harder than anyone imagined. The killer wasn't present in the church during the chaos. They had orchestrated the entire catastrophe from the shadows, watching every reaction, hearing every scream, knowing exactly when to strike. Detectives finally understood the scale of the crime. This wasn't passion, this wasn't jealousy. It was revenge perfected. And the terrifying truth remained. The killer wasn't finished. Daniel, Emily, and anyone close to them could still be in danger. The wedding had been a battlefield, but the war was far from over.
Emily remained missing. The investigation intensified. Detectives knew the killer was still at large. Every lead pointed to someone methodical, someone patient, someone ruthless. Daniel stayed close to the scene, silent, calculating. He feared Emily's fate. He feared the killer's next strike, and he feared what he might have to do to survive. Then the messages arrived. Typed, anonymous, direct. You cannot hide. The next one will pay. Emily's location was traced to a remote motel. Detectives arrived to find her trembling, clutching a black recording device, the same kind Daniel had carried to the altar. She confessed everything. The recording wasn't hers. It wasn't Ryan's. It didn't belong to Daniel. It belonged to the mastermind, the person who had orchestrated the chaos, the exposure, the death. The person who had been silently controlling every move, every word, every outcome. The killer had not only destroyed the wedding, they had planned it to leave a trail of fear, a trail that pointed to Daniel, Emily, and Ryan, a trail that would make them question every memory, every relationship, every secret. Then it became clear. The killer's goal wasn't just revenge. It was control. Absolute, terrifying control. And with Emily's confession, Daniel understood the final truth. The mastermind had prepared one last move. One move to ensure that no one involved would walk away untouched. The wedding was never just a ceremony. It was a trap, a deadly game, and the end was closer than anyone realized. The killer had waited years to strike in a single afternoon, and the final strike was yet to come.
The investigation closed in. Detectives traced the mastermind to someone no one suspected, not a stranger, not an enemy, but a former close friend of all three, betrayed by lies, betrayal, and secrets spanning years. Emily was safe for now, but shaken beyond recognition. She had been manipulated, framed, and left to fear for her life. Daniel faced the aftermath of betrayal and murder. He survived the chaos, but the loss of Ryan weighed on him. The best man, once his friend, was dead. The poison had silenced him forever. The killer had revealed themselves in the most horrifying way. A confession left in the last envelope. A message typed in cold precision. You trusted the wrong people. The next time you believe in love, remember this day. The mastermind had vanished, their plan executed flawlessly. And for the survivors, the terror didn't end with the wedding. Every step, every decision, every trust would now be shadowed by fear. Emily and Daniel tried to rebuild, but every glance, every memory, every wedding photograph was tainted. The revelation had left scars deeper than anyone could see. And the final question lingered, one that would haunt them forever. Was the mastermind truly gone, or were they still watching, waiting for the next perfect moment to strike? The wedding that was meant to be the happiest day of their lives had instead become a nightmare, one that would echo long after the final guest had left. The truth had been revealed. The killer's identity was known, but the consequences were far from over.
If you want to uncover more chilling true crime stories and see justice exposed, subscribe to Crime Vaults as we bring light to the darkest true crime cases and never miss the secrets hidden in plain sight.